In the spirit of keeping it 100%, I want to share with you our reality as a young Kenyan American family that often straddles between life in the US and life in Kenya. And many of our viewers who've been watching us know that we are working our way back to Kenya. In fact, lots of viewers typically tune in to come and enjoy our videos, most of which are typically shot in the village. So in the next 4 weeks or so, you likely will see a mix of videos from California and videos in Karating. And in part because that is really our reality. We have not fully moved back to the village. We are working our way towards that. But in the meantime, we will be going back and forth. And so please don't be surprised when you see some videos here and some videos in Karating, because I shoot videos all the time. I have a lot of videos from Karating that are scheduled to come up, and they'll be there. And so the plan is in the next 4 weeks before we go back in December, you'll be seeing likely a mix of those two. So don't come after me in the comment section wondering what's going on. That did we change our mind? No, the plan remains the same. It's just that I've got a lot of Karating videos and I've got a lot of Long Beach videos, and we'll be showing you both worlds. But in general, though, America has been exceedingly good to us. I'm truly, truly grateful for what America has offered us in the last 20 years or so. And that is actually why I will never discourage anyone from coming to America, just because. If you ever find an opportunity to come over, please do, because I have seen what America can do in terms of changing a person's life when things line up. However, while many things have worked out, we have really suffered in some ways, and what I call proper suffering. And so there are many, many forms of American suffering that I would never want to see exported to Kenya. For example, suffering that is connected to gun violence. Folks are crazy here with guns. I would never want to see any of that stuff. However, there are certain types of suffering, American suffering, that I want to bring back to the village. I know this sounds really strange, but hang in there. I'm about to explain in the next couple of minutes. Stay with me. Well, good morning, family. Welcome to Long Beach, California. Today, as you can tell, I'm with the whole team. We are picnicking by the beach right next to the famous Queen Mary, which is right on the background. I think you saw it when we were just driving in. This is a very old ocean line, I think like 1914 or something like that was used for many things. It used to ferry people from England to America, and at some point was being used in the World War. And currently, it's been turned into a museum slash, I think, hotel. But yeah, it's one of the very iconic things here in Long Beach, California. And so we are not on the sandy side of the beach. We are on the other side of the beach where it's just grass, and we're just taking a quiet spot here, picnicking with family this wonderful sunny afternoon. So, as I said, we'll be here for a few weeks, and by early December, we'll be right back looking forward to Christmas holiday with family again, like we typically do. So, as you already know, that elections are coming up. I've already received my mail-in votes. I need to fill that in. I need to send it in. Thankfully, in California, I don't even have to go line somewhere. My vote comes to my house, and then I just go drop it off in my neighborhood. So I'll be doing that. I need to attend a conference out in DC. There's some work stuff to clean up, personal things to take care of. I need to do my annual physical. Not looking forward to it, but I need to go see what's going on and things like that. And when all that is done, we are back to the village. So as you can hear from my voice, I'm not as excited as I typically am. In part because, of course, I'm very far, almost 7,000 miles away from my true first love, Karating, my village. Now, if you don't know where that is, Karating is in Western Kenya. So folks join us for the first time. My channel typically talks about our experience navigating this complicated experience of living in America, but working towards moving back to the village. And so we welcome you to join us, and I hope you'll enjoy this. If you do, I hope you subscribe, but if you don't still, we will be glad to welcome you as a regular viewer. So as I've mentioned in the past, that going back home or transitioning back to Kenya takes many pathways. I think sometimes people think that there's only one way to return, which means sell everything and go home. No. One pathway, obviously, is what some people would describe going cold turkey, where I've seen folks just sell their home, sell their property, wrap it up, and move home. And many actually do that very successfully. I admire that, but that is not really what works for us. We have a very different pathway that we're currently, in fact, we've been working on this for about 5 years. And I'm going to walk you through what our journey really looks like. But yeah, if you go on YouTube, you'll see lots of Kenyans and even non-Kenyans who have simply sold stuff, uprooted themselves, gone in Kenya and are doing fantastic stuff. In fact, I think the majority of folks I've seen, it's always the good stories. Maybe when folks fail, they don't advertise, but most folks do that really well. And some folks do it early in life, in their 40s, 50s, or maybe 30s. But many of the folks that I know personally moved back as they were moving closer to retirement. Now, our hope really is that we don't stick it out till retirement. That's not what I would want to do. I'd love to go back in Kenya when I'm still physically strong. I still have energy. I have lots to give back to the community. So I don't plan to be here till retirement. And thankfully, with my type of schedule, that's going to be possible. The rest we're still working on. So I'm going to walk you through our journey moving back, and hopefully somebody listening out there might find this helpful, because I've talked to tons of folks in diaspora. I'm just surprised at how this YouTube space has connected me with people from all over the world. I talk to folks in Colombia, Poland, Canada, Norway, people in Saudi Arabia. I mean, every part of the world who share the exact same interest, the exact same journey. And so I'm sharing my story so that I hope that if you're thinking about home, this perhaps takes the pressure off of you. Because many people ask me, how do you just uproot your life and go home? How do you pay your bills and all that? Thinking I've figured out some magic way of doing it. But that's not what really works. And so in our case, it's a multi-step process. About 4 steps. So let me walk you through it. So step number 1 is what I call the foundation. This is basically the step where you get to decide whether is this Kenyan thing yours. Because in truth, going back to Kenya is not for everybody. Just because you're born and raised in Kenya doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go back. There are lots of people who are doing an amazing job here. They're doing really well, very comfortable, and they have very little that demands attention in Kenya. So many of these folks really don't have to go back. I have lots of my friends who are very comfortable here. And so, hey, going back home is not for everyone, at least not now. And maybe that might change later on. That's okay. But like I said, in the foundation, you're trying to figure out whether this thing is yours. So the first step is to travel to Kenya. And often I advise travel to Kenya probably multiple times a year. Sometimes some of us travel during festive season during Christmas time, and we have such a fun time, and we think that is what Kenya looks like throughout the year. Don't do that. So currently we're traveling multiple times at different months to see what Kenya really looks like outside festive season. And this is especially critical for either non-Kenyans who want to move to Kenya or Kenyans who've been gone for such a long time. Personally, I was gone for 10 years the first time before I moved back. And when I came back home, there was quite a bit of adjustment on my part. So I encourage folks, if you want to check it out, at least travel. Just go visit different times. If you have a bad experience, try it again. If you have a good experience, try it again, so that you see what that looks like at different times. And initially, I tell folks, don't buy a home or don't build a home when you still haven't settled on that question first. So you can rent, do like a temporary accommodation just to check things out. But if your answer is a yes, then you can start thinking about building a home or buying a home. And then the second thing to think about is the issue of transportation. Within the city, you're generally fine, but out in the village, for many of us, public transportation is a different animal, especially when you have kids. So the thing you now have to think about is perhaps buying a car that you will be using regularly if you're going to spend more time at home. And then next, you want to be thinking about paperwork, especially with immigration. A lot of us, when we left, we lost our citizenship many, many years ago. And for those who are non-Kenyans, then you have to figure out what immigration paperwork do you need to put in place. So once that is sorted out, things like passports, get that sorted out, and then driver's license. Let me give you an example. My California license, I can use it at home, but when you whip it out, when you're stopped by the cops, the cost of bribe significantly goes up. I remember not too long ago, I was parked in Kisumu, quote unquote, parked illegally. And the guy walked in, so I mean, he got the sense that obviously I was not a person living around. So something that should have been like 200 shillings, he was charging me 7,000. So the Kenyan driver, the US license usually comes with hefty bribe prices, and you all know what I'm talking about. And so it's good to get a Kenyan local driver license, and then of course birth certificates. Like our kids are born in California, and so I recently got them birth certificates. I've already applied for their passports, so that everything else they need to do in Kenya should be relatively easy. And of course, they don't have to pay for the ETA thing that we pay when we travel. And then, of course, as you travel here and there, think about what you can do, both to keep yourself busy or things that can make you money, and allow kids to reconnect. Because I've seen cases where folks move to Kenya with kids in high school who have never been to Kenya. And in many cases, they usually have a miserable time and they can't wait to come back to America. So the frequency of travel is also to help kids connect. My kids really connect very well with their cousins and my neighbors, and they enjoy it. So after step one, which I think for the most part we are done with, then you move to step two, which is about building flexibility in your job or diversifying your streams of income. And the biggest thing about that is that it allows you to be able to stay in Kenya for a much longer period, as opposed to coming in for holiday when you just have like a two-week break or so. And so much of this comes with remote work and self-employment. Like in my case, 90% of my work can actually be done virtually. So even when I'm in Kenya, I still do my job. So that allows me to be very flexible. And so we have this interesting split in our family where myself and Otende, the last born, we can pretty much go to Kenya anytime, spend as much time as we want. But my son and my wife don't have the flexibility. So we're still figuring that out. And then when you think about streams of income, I'm thinking about how to make money while in Kenya. And currently we are exploring farming opportunities, education, healthcare, consultancy. I'm actually thinking of professionally doing consultancy with education and folks who are transitioning to Kenya, and even folks who are really interested in construction, particularly from diaspora. So I'm exploring some ideas in that regard. And then after stage two, then you move to stage three, which is about solidifying options for kids, schools, healthcare, entertainment, and transitioning to adulthood. Because many times we think of kids as far as getting a local school, but we don't think about what does that mean in the future. Do we want them to go to Kenyan universities or American universities and things like that? That would be stage three. And then the final stage, which is what I'm ultimately looking forward to, is when we get to a place where I spend a minimum of 11 months out of the year in Kenya. I want to get to a point where if I have to come to the US, it's probably maybe a week or two, but the rest of my time should be in Kenya. And that's the ultimate plan. So we don't really know how long this will take. We don't have a specific timeline with this. What we do is that we set ourselves a goal every year. And so every year we pick 2 or 3 things that we are going to do that moves us closer to step 4. So if we can finish all steps within 1 year, wonderful, we will be able to go home by then. But if it takes us longer, we are okay with that. We'll just take it one step at a time. So lastly, as I finish, as I mentioned earlier, there's types of suffering that I would like to see come to Kenya. The other ones I told you earlier, I don't want to see in Kenya. But here are some kinds of suffering that we suffer in Long Beach that I'd like to see in Kenya. Number one, look at where we are right now. We are really suffering the indignity of having a clean, safe, green space, often with proper children play areas, workout facilities like volleyball pitches, biking trails. We have a ton of that in Long Beach. And the pain of it is something I would like to bring back to Karating. Unfortunately, right now, as I see back home, they're not creating new green spaces. We are filling up everywhere with buildings, and I don't see any new parks, or even the existing ones are not done as well as I'd like them to. So I'd like to bring this kind of suffering to Karating. The second suffering I want to bring to Karating is proper public beaches, clean and free public restrooms. In Kenya, there are no free public restrooms. you have to pay everywhere. And of course, outdoor entertainment facilities like volleyball, biking. Of course, we have restaurant. Now, can you imagine a beach like Loco Beach in Kisumu with all of that? I would really like the people of Kisumu to suffer that. Number three, I would like the people of Kisumu and Karating to suffer the indignity of setting an amazing stadium. If you live around Los Angeles, there's a new stadium called the SoFi Stadium. And if you don't know what that is, please look it up. It is an unbelievable place. And there's lots of sports facilities just within our neighborhood. I'd like for folks in Karating to enjoy that. Of course, we have universities and learning institutions. We have okay infrastructure. LA is probably would not be ranked very high in terms of infrastructure, but we have decent roads. I mean, relatively okay roads, airports. In fact, just within 25 minutes from my home, there are 3 airports that I could use. And with that, you end up getting relatively affordable tickets to many, many places. You're talking about amusement park, museums, galleries, and safe neighborhoods relatively, and systems that work. And I've done a video on that. These are things that cause us so much pain that I'd like to deliver in Karating or Kisumu. I know these things are possible. And then when you talk about specialist healthcare, and don't get me wrong, America probably has one of the worst healthcare systems in the world, especially for people who don't have proper health insurance. America is not a place you want to be sick in. But if you have good insurance, America has exceptional professionals, whether you're talking about respiratory therapists, nurses, doctors, and whatnot. Recently, I was actually reading an article about folks using a titanium heart to help people who are on the transplant list and just extending human life. I would love the people in Karating to suffer the indignity of a long life, access through exceptional healthcare. And so currently, for many of these things I dream about, I really don't have a plan. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it because I don't have the money. Maybe I can start playing the lottery. But one way or the other, I have to, it's a life commitment of mine to make sure that these kinds of suffering that we suffer here in Long Beach are delivered in Karating. So maybe some of you folks have ideas out there that could help us do this. I'd love to hear that from you because I have come to accept that our current leaders or the leaders that they're grooming are never going to bring this. These are not their priorities because these are things that help the ordinary people. They're never going to do this. So one way or the other, we have to do this. So, well, I hope this was informative. If you disagree, let me know. But if you agree, you also let me know. And I will see you in the next. Thank you. Bye.